Welcome everybody to APMG's event Design Thinking in a Changing World. Today we will be discussing design thinking in the context of digital transformation, IT services and strategy building. My name is Sabina Bieniecka, and at APMG I am a business development manager for Central and Eastern Europe, and I will be facilitating today's panel. During the next 90 minutes, we will be discussing topics like how does design thinking fit into the project management processes, and digital transformation. What are the challenges and benefits of implementing design thinking in IT projects, as well as how does design thinking influence building business strategies? We will present all this on examples of design thinking applications and real-life cases. Let us begin with a short introduction to the world of design thinking delivered by Rafal Czarny. Rafal is a lead author of DTMethod, a methodology allowing application of design thinking. He is a facilitator, trainer, and a consultant. Rafal is a director of innovation and development at Inprogress Design Lab. Welcome, Rafal. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Sabina. Hello, hi, and welcome, everyone. It's great having you here, and I'm very happy we will spend some time today talking about strategy, digital transformation, IT management in the context of design thinking. I will give some context at the beginning just to share my thoughts. So today's world is faster than ever, and new technologies emerges, competition grew very fast, and the world is more and more like a network. We all impact on each other wherever we live. We are here from 4, 5 continents just in this meeting. So we are in a network, and we impact on each other. So the globalization, the ease of transmission of information, and our mutual influence have strongly changed the way the world and business operates. And today, in this absolutely wild world, business must find their way to develop, compete, adapt, and survive. Changes in strategy and in digital transformation are possible ways of doing this, of adapting to this world. And design thinking is an approach helping to find the way to change, to create a vision of an organization, to develop a mission, to define a transformational goals. Design thinking is to engage the main stakeholders groups such as users, customers, clients, employees. It is also for finding innovative solutions, helping in differentiation on the market. And last but not least, design thinking is about acting fast, because we need to act fast with the pace of the world. Today's meeting will be focused on these aspects of using design thinking, and specifically DTMethod, the methodology for design thinking. DTMethod was designed and developed by the team of practitioners and scientists to make sure it works good with finding solutions. So it's the methodology describing in detailed way how to implement and how to use design thinking in professional practice. It can be used as a problem-solving method, but also it is a way to define a product of a project or as a structure to create strategy and vision of transformation. DTMethod is to help organizations in finding answers to the question, how should we operate in today's and tomorrow's world? So I will start with that. Thank you, Sabina.
Thank you so much, Rafal. As you can see on your screens, today I'm joined by a panel of great experts in design thinking, digital transformation, ITSM, and project management. First of my guests is Rafal, you already met. And allow me now to introduce you to the rest of our amazing panel. Agnieszka, Bochacka, Malini, Jayaganesh, Jan Clark, Rodrigo, Neves, and Michał Prorok. First of them, Agnieszka, is a lead author of APMG's newest training and certification, Digital Transformation. and a top digital transformation voice of LinkedIn. Welcome, Agnieszka.
Hello, everybody. My name is Agnieszka, and I have over a decade experience in business and technology. I've worked in a company like PwC, Deloitte Digital, Maspex, and 4F. So I'm very excited to look forward to great discussions with my fellow panelists. So warm welcome to everybody.
Very warm welcome, Agnieszka. Thank you. Our third panelist is Malini Jayaganesh. Malini is a strategic advisor and coach in ITSM area. Malini joins us today from Australia. So good evening, Malini.
Hello, Sabina. It's actually good morning. It's just past 1 a.m. And I'm really delighted to be part of this conversation about design thinking, because human-centered design is very close to my heart. In my work as an engagement and innovation specialist, I regularly employ design thinking approach to my work, and I've seen some amazing results. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity for this conversation.
Thank you, Malini, and I'm looking forward to hearing from your thoughts and your experience. Next panelist is Ian Clark. Ian is a service transformation and management coach and consultant with over 25 years of experience in working with clients from all over the world. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, Sabina. Hi, everyone, and hi to the esteemed panel I'm joined by. Design thinking. We did a few sessions on this 2-3 weeks ago, which went very, very well. And I'm again very happy to be invited back and to share my thoughts, perspectives on various topics surrounding design thinking related to service management, transformation, user experience, user centricity. So looking forward to the next hour and a half, I think it is. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. We have prepared a lot of questions for you. I hope some of them will be challenging. We are also joined by Rodrigo Neves from Mexico. Rodrigo is a distinguished professor, consultant, speaker, and writer. He is a specialist in agile and hybrid project management, among many others, business analysis, and as well as ESG. Very early good morning then to you, Rodrigo.
Thank you, Sabrina. Good morning from Brazil. It's nice to be here with this team. Welcome the audience. And my story with design thinking is interesting because I'm a project manager from the beginning. Then I added business analysis, all of these on the search for a better project management. And then it came up easily, naturally, to add design thinking as, for me, one of the best ways to open good projects, to find better solutions. So for me, it came naturally. And with DTMethod, for example, we can have a lot of extra ideas, tools, and a very structured method to do that. So I'm very anxious to be part and develop this team. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. And our last panelist is Michał Prorok. Michał is an IT project management specialist with over 9 years of experience. He is also an ESG project and program manager, as well as DTMethod ambassador. Welcome, Michał.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. Yeah, and I have over 9 years of experience in projects, especially in IT projects. But now my focus lies in ESG, which is an entirely new area for me as well. Very interesting, very important, but entirely new. So I am very happy to be able to utilize design thinking in those areas as well. And I am a DTMethod ambassador, so I am especially happy to be able to join the panel today.
Thank you. So thank you all, and thank you all for joining us today. And without further ado, I think let's begin our discussion from a topic of relations between project management and ITSM in the design thinking context. And my first question goes to Rodrigo. Rodrigo, how can design thinking change the world of IT project management?
Well, thanks for the question. And yes, as I said, on my history in project management, I was researching better ways to do that and thinking specifically about the world of IT. sounds strange, but I still see a lack of mindset necessary to do innovation. And it's strange because IT technology should be the opposite, because it's new technologies open a lot of room for new ideas. But yes, in terms of culture, personally, professionally, and in terms of organizations, I still see a lack of a mindset for open-minded to new things. To use design thinking, to use agile methods, we need to have a little bit of courage, try to error, to learn, and to do this process over and over again. And design thinking is about that. We try to find new ideas to the old problems, and we need to, on this process, to learn from mistakes, to have mistakes to learn on that, and to use that to develop, once again, better solutions. And to have a mindset to be open to commit mistakes as soon as possible as a part of the learning and development process is something that organization really needs some courage, needs some support to be done. And I still see a lack of that in terms of agile and IT project management. And I think it's a process, and it goes on. And design thinking helps a lot on this process, and it's growing, it's getting better. So I think it's more about the mindset, the structure of people in organizations to use that.
Thank you. I think that's a very refreshing perspective. And indeed, there are some challenges coming from the mindset or cultural approach, but also from the area of how to fix or how to integrate the new approach into this traditional methodologies, for example. So, Ian, thank you, Rodrigo. And so, Ian, from your experience, what would be the biggest challenges in integrating design thinking with traditional IT service delivery models such as ITIL, FitSM, or DevOps, and how to deal with those challenges, how to fix them?
Interesting. Challenges. I think for me, most organizations kind of operate on this, some would say a little archaic, almost kind of plan, build, run, improve kind of model. And most of these frameworks in service management tend to operate on that basis. So, you know, ITIL's been around for a very long time. A lot of companies have that entrenched in their own way, you know, again, based on this kind of plan, build, run, improve model. Yeah. They're evolving more now into an integrator kind of operating model from a service management point of view. But my point is that the transform aspect is missing out of this model. So it really should be, you know, what I would term as a transform, plan, kind of run, improve model. And the beauty of design thinking, it's like an organizational shared service. It should be, in my opinion. It's based in user needs, or it's based in needs. And like a CMO, change management office, and a program management office, it needs to be given that cross-functional kind of view and embedded within an organization. You know, if you take the companies that have really latched onto design thinking, like the Netflixes of the world, it's just the way that they operate here. And a lot of their improve and transform is driven out of design thinking. So I think the biggest challenge is, you know, trying to figure out in companies, where does it fit in? A lot of companies see it as a problem-solving method, which is not incorrect, but it's kind of a bit blinkered. You know, it's more of a, you know, we've got a problem in operations or improve. Can we use DTMethod to help us find a solution? It should be kind of given a broader scope, in my opinion. So I think people are just grappling a little bit with how does it fit in. You know, and my view on that is it sits straight across the entire organization, and it should be switched always on, or, you know, so to speak, and engaged with the, you know, strategic levels, operational levels, and obviously improve and transform. So I think that's the biggest challenge. You know, they're just grappling with where does it fit.
Thank you. I think it's a very interesting point. So it's not a fixed mandate, it's not a quick fix, it's a more of a paradigm of how to function and how to plan organizational everything. So thank you, Ian, for this. So to go maybe more deeper into this topic, Michał, do you see impact of design thinking on increasing the effectiveness of communication in IT teams? And which techniques, from your perspective, would be most effective in this aspect?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe let's start with the stereotype that I think we all know, and the immortal TV series of IT Crowd, British TV series, show it the best, that the IT team is like two guys basically living in the basement and fixing all the problems with people who do not know how to turn on their computer. So this stereotype stems from something. Of course, it's not that this is a caricature. It's not the reality. And it wasn't like 20 years ago. But still, time passes. The IT services, IT delivery is nothing new anymore. So people going into IT industry are different. They are more open. They communicate more easily. They are more outspoken. They have charisma even to go to see the client and explain the technology side, when myself as a project manager understand like 50% of it. But then it's still not the meeting between project managers when communication is 90% of our work. Those are people that work in technology. So they can have some difficulties discussing between themselves or communicating with the business. And here with the business, with communication with the business, with the client, especially external one, I think design thinking helps the best. And in terms of the techniques, I think basically the human-centered approach is the main focal point of this. And then in terms of the techniques themselves, it is like visual communication, so explaining via showing. This can be on a wall, on a sticky note, on a Miro board. Helps to communicate clearly what do you really have in mind. And then something we work daily in, especially agile software development, iterative feedback. So IT teams are really accustomed to that, and that really helps.
Thank you, Michał. Thank you very much. And since technology is the main focus of our panel today, and even more so the emerged topic of digital transformation, I would like to move to that now. Rafal, a question for you. Which DTMethod tools and techniques do you find most useful in the context of digital transformation? A very wide question.
It is a very wide question, and I will address very similar things which already Rodrigo, Ian, and Michał said, because I will use words client, customer, communication, human-centered, because this is the most important part of digital transformation, because we need to address people's, customers, clients' needs. To find the way for organizational transformation. So stakeholder research, all tools, techniques which are dedicated to stakeholder research are crucial. Questionnaires, observations, interviews, cognitive walkthrough. These are the most important tools which are worth using at the beginning, at the very beginning of thinking about the transformation. It is very important to find out what the needs of the users are, so that the organization is in effect responding to these needs. Nowadays, consumer centricity is a paradigm. It's very important foundation for each organization to be customer centric. And if organization thinks otherwise, I don't think and I don't bode well for its long future. It is very important to change mindset and think about customers first. In the DT method, we also include the role of the DT expert, that is the person who brings some knowledge that DT designers do not have. And when organizations work in the area of digital transformation, it is imperative to reach out for a technology knowledge, because there is, unfortunately, in companies, in different organizations, people rarely have experts in modern, innovative technologies. People don't know the new technologies, and if they know it from social media, from the internet, from blogs. And when organizations want to transform, the organization need to get this knowledge, and that's why the use of the DT expert is often necessary in the digital transformation design thinking processes. Another tool worth using is 635 method, which we suggest as a method for brainstorming, and is focused on finding as much as possible ideas to help customers have their needs supported by the organization in the future. Involving DT expertise here will help DT designers to create new and original solutions, innovative solutions. And it will be very important in analyzing ideas to make sure that the ideas are indeed innovative. The know-how wow matrix is another tool which we use in the DT method that might help in this work. So there are some tools which can help organizations in addressing the customer's needs, in generating ideas, and in choosing the most innovative ideas, but also there is a role which can assist organization in making it in the best way.
Thank you, Rafal, for painting this picture, and to go even further into the topic of digital transformation. Agnieszka, you're an expert in this area. What are your predictions for the future of digital transformation, and how can we position design thinking in this context? In other words, how can design thinking help in implementing innovation in digital transformation processes?
Thanks for these questions. I totally agree with Rafal and all the panelists. So from the digital transformations, I'm some kind convinced that the digital transformations will continue to be driven by rapid advancements in technology, like including AI, machine learning, IoT, cloud solutions, and more exponential technology. But however, it's important to remember that digital transformations isn't just about technology. It requires some fundamental shifts in business models and must be totally closely aligned with the overall strategic goals of the organizations. And many companies are realizing this, and this is as a result, the demand for skills and expertise in this field is rapidly and growing. So this is why the courses and training in digital transformations are becoming more essential to help organizations build the internal capabilities needed to manage this change effectively. And now more focusing on the second part of the question, design thinking. So this method plays a crucial role in ensuring that digital transformations initiatives are center on the real needs of users, so center needs of the customers, the clients, the people which are working together. So design thinking helps organizations align technology solutions with actual business problems, deeply understanding some kind of user experience and the challenges. From my opinion, design thinking some kind reduce the risk associated with innovations, with the implementations innovation during the digital transformations, and it ensures that digital transformations afford results like in very practical user-centered solutions, like making the overall transformations more successful and adaptable to the future needs.
Thank you, Agnieszka. I've seen from our amazing panel that Ian and Rafal would like to add to that. Ian, why don't you go first?
Yeah, it's actually, I don't want to add to it. It's going back to Rafal and the discussion we just had now with regards to digital transformation. I mentioned this word transformation, and now we've also obviously started talking about digital transformation. What is that? You know, is there a, because I could ask 3 different people I know, and they'd have 3 different answers. So it would be really nice to sort of say, okay, well, what do we mean by digital transformation? What is that?
Great question. Great question for Agnieszka.
Rafal, are you going to answer this one, or is Agnieszka going to answer this one?
Agnieszka, why don't you start answering?
Agnieszka, sorry.
Yes. So yes, the digital transformations is very deeply changing the organizations, but it's totally have a big impact of the building new business model, digital new business model to earn more money from the digital perspective. So it's not only to implement the project, so it's not only that the change analog way to technology way, but it's to how to reinvent, rebuild organizations in the digital aspect. So how to prepare organizations for using all technology, but also change the culture, building the innovative approach in the organization. So it's a deep change in the organizations, how to make more money using technology and building new digital business model. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian.
You know, manual ways of work would become more automated, more technology-driven products and solutions. Is that what we kind of mean by transformation?
Not
an organization?
Really. Yes, not really. It's the beginning step, because we have digitization, so it's the step before the digital transformations. But when we are talking about the digital transformations, it's very deep changing in the organizations and is normally connected with the change in the strategy. So it's the organization decide, okay, we want to be more digital and build our future existing in the digital area. And it also goes with some new business models, some new products. The great example of this is the Amazon. The Amazon go with the digital transformations and build another business model to cloud computing services. So they build AWS services using digital to earn more money for using this technology, changing their business model. So this is more in this way, not in the beginning, because a lot of organizations are in the beginning of using technology. So they are implementing some kind of applications, new programs, but it's not really the looking for overall digital transformation.
Okay, understood.
Thank you. Thank you, Agnieszka. Now it's time for Rafal's reply, finally.
I will add one thing. It was very rich question, great discussion. I will add one thing. Why in digital transformation and strategic creation, design thinking is so important, because when we think about digital transformation, it's very hard to visualize what it should be and where we should go. Another example which I can use is Fujifilm. Fujifilm was a producer of the films to the cameras, to analog cameras, but they transformed their part of their business, and they created Astalift, which is producing the cosmetics. And this is kind of a transformation. And they need to use new technology to transform their business. And why I use this example? They need to find that their technology process is a bit, not very, but a bit similar to the process, and they use very similar substances in their production, which is used in the production of the cosmetics. And finding the way in which they should transform was very creative. They need to analyze they need to make analysis on the very wide aspects of their business, but not only business, but also technology used in the world. And design thinking is very useful in finding the way and creating the vision of the transformed business, because it opens a lot of ideas, a lot of eyes, and it can be very helpful in developing transformational vision.
Exactly. So with this definition, we are able to understand, and to your point and to Agnieszka's point, that digital transformation is much more than just introducing new services. It's entering or building brand new worlds, right? So we need to revolutionize and try to imagine how this world would look like. And so I think that's what Rafal means by imagining how this can look like, how we can reinvent it. Okay, thank you for those interesting points. Thank you, Agnieszka and Rafal. Let's move on now to explaining how does design thinking influence building business strategies. So, Ian, the first question would be for you.
I think we just answered that, didn't we?
No, I think we have still much more to say.
Okay, I'm kidding.
Would you be able to give our audience some insights into?
Yeah, I think my view of a strategy is this old archaic, we're going into strategic planning sessions, and then we go into a 2-month, planning cycle for the next 3 years. That days are over. The world is VUCA and it's Barney. I think we've all heard of VUCA. Barney, Rafal, I'll credit you. I didn't know anything about Barney until you mentioned it in the last session we spoke. This whole, brittle, it's susceptible to shock, A for anxious. Obviously, there's a lot of anxiety around, and non-linear, complex systems thinking, incomprehensible, difficult to understand, multidimensional. So, VUCA, Barney, the world spins very quickly and change is happening very quickly. So to go into these set strategic cycles are kind of thing of the past, I think. So strategy is always on, in my opinion. That's the kind of transformation part of a business. So we are always on. We are always looking to transform, improve, digitize, if we're talking about digital transformation. And design thinking is obviously embedded almost next to strategy, in my opinion, because of its grounding in user needs. So, if there's a particular user need or user needs that are coming to the fore to transform a particular organization, then the design thinking can be adapted almost. Things like challenge trees go from cause and effect to need and consequence, maybe, or need and opportunity. if you're talking things like SWOTs and TOES analysis. So to have strategy and design thinking, you can't, in my opinion, you can't separate them. They're all part of the same conversation. And so like I've mentioned, it's an always-on strategy. Design thinking's embedded into the way we do things here, and the two ways of work almost interlink to create ultimately or diverge on potential solutions that could keep us ahead of the competition, could drive more revenue, could save more costs, could get more customers, get more market share. You can use various techniques in DTMethod as part of strategy, but for me, strategy is always on. It's not something we do once a year. My opinion. I'll be happy for anyone to throw in their 10 cents worth on that one.
I think maybe Michał. Michał has been working on the topic, so thank you, Ian. So Michał, to Ian's point, which of those specific design thinking techniques that you work with would you find most useful in strategy development process? Are there any that you always recommend in your projects?
Yeah, there are three of my favorites, but answering to Ian's point, basically I do agree that the strategy is always on, but we have to start somewhere, right? So this is the big workshop, let's say, when we define our strategy or we want to change our strategy, and it may happen multiple times a year. If we want to change, we're agile, right? But my favorite three tools or techniques that I basically always recommend, yes, Sabina, you're right. They should happen in a very different phases of the strategy definition, in my opinion. And I like to start with the stakeholder mapping, which is very helpful to understand who is going to benefit and who is going to be necessary for our strategy to, for one thing, be defined, and then the second, to be successful. Because it's not the goal to have a strategy and to then create mission, vision, and a few sentences that we want to paint on our walls and go about our day. But we want to accomplish something. At least we should. I really like the build, break, fix exercise, that we can swap ideas and then challenge ourselves in smaller groups or even individually. So that helps with the communication aspect that we spoke of earlier. And then another one is empathy mapping, that we want to map on the, square area, to be honest, what the user or the stakeholder or a person who will be benefiting from or working on the strategy says, thinks, and feels, and at the very end does in terms of what we are trying to define. So those three, in my opinion, are extremely helpful to define a proper working strategy, not just a few sentences.
Okay, thank you very much, Michał. I would like us now to switch topic a little bit and move to the issues of social responsibility, environmental issues, climate change, and the issues that are very, very important nowadays. And to try to talk a little bit, how can design thinking support those efforts? So Rodrigo, you're an expert in this area. Can you talk a little bit on how design thinking could support achievement in ESG goals in organizations you work with? And specifically, in what ways can design thinking be a helpful tool in preparations for ESG reporting?
Yes, and by the way, by living in Brazil, ESG, and Brazil is in the center of the ESG, how can I say, conversation because of our natural characteristics thinking about the environment. So yes, the big companies right here are looking at that as part of their strategy seriously. And, design thinking fits perfectly because ESG, okay, it's a broad thing. It covers a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's about designing, creating new solutions to old problems, and solutions that needs from society, from business, from several areas. And that's what design thinking does. Innovation, when it puts people together, a diverse group of people to learn from each other, to understand other needs, to bring solutions to the old problems. And these solutions doesn't need to be on a short frame time step. It needs to be sustainable on a long step. So it's a hard thing to do because it changes a lot of things, and it needs to be done with people, from people to people. So the idea of design thinking to be human-centered is perfect for that. Build new solutions to all the problems and to do the best with the resources we already have. So that's what design thinking is about. So I think it fits perfectly to the subject.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. I think we'll be circling back to the topic a little bit later on. The next question is for Agnieszka and the following for Malini. So Agnieszka, in which elements of organization culture, which of those elements are key in supporting creation of digital transformation strategy, in your opinion? If an organization is beginning their work on those aspects, which elements of organization culture are key?
Yes, like I said previously, a successful digital transformation strategy relies heavily on the organizational culture. So it's the main part of all the digital transformations. And essential elements include like openness to change, collaborations, because we have a lot of different topics, a lot of different technologies, so collaboration is very, very important, and focus on continuous learning to build the continuous learning approach in the organizations. And in addition, in this area is great change management, plays like a critical role in some kind of guiding employees through the transformations, ensuring that the necessary support, communications, and training are in place to minimize resistance and some kind of facilitate adoptions. And companies need to foster a culture where experimentations is some kind of encouraged and employees feel empowered to embrace new ways of working, new technology, new things of doing in the organizations. And without this foundational cultural elements, even the most advanced digital initiatives, advanced technology may face resistance and fail to deliver their full potential, because at the end we change the processes, we change the way of working, and the technology is a tool to prepare new model, new business, and new organizations. And going more in the context digital design thinking. So design thinking, it's a powerful tool. It's powerful because it's some kind of nurture a collaborative approach, so collaborative culture, by bringing people from different departments together to solve the problems, to work on problems which they have in the digital transformations. So design thinking workshops encourage open dialogue, creativity, so making employees like really involved in the process, involved in this change, and to prepare the solutions which the best fit for the organizations, the best fits for the employees. So this approach, the design thinking, help to build some kind of culture that is open to change, but also some kind of actively drives its forward by doing digital transformation. So it's a great tool, a great methodology to implement during digital transformations, to starting to build this culture in the organization.
Thank you, Agnieszka. And we haven't yet heard from Malini. Malini, we have a question for you, finally. Moving from the culture, from this wider perspective, we know that design thinking is very much human-centered, right, approach. From your experience, how can design thinking help in better understanding of customer needs in the context of delivering innovative IT services?
That's a great question, Sabina. And I think in my experience, what I have observed is that over time, in many organizations, IT departments can become very insular. So they focus too much on the technology and their functions' internal capabilities. And even frameworks like ITIL, which serve a very important purpose, they can actually be quite distracting. They contribute to the problem because we become overly focused on our internal processes and our internal metrics, right? So in other words, IT adopts this inside-out perspective, and this becomes a barrier between IT and the customers that it is supposed to serve. So we end up shipping out products and services without really understanding what are the solutions that our customers need. And so we're already on the back foot. So when it comes to being innovative and getting on the front foot, thinking strategically, etc., we have a lot of catching up to do. Now, the way design thinking helps is that I know we've been talking about design thinking methods and techniques, but fundamentally at its core, it's about a certain mindset, right? It's a human orientation when we talk about human centered design. So what design thinking does is it actually helps IT departments to shift their mindset to an outside-in perspective, because the process of designing services and solutions begins and ends with the customer, right? So even when it comes to requirements gathering, traditionally we do interviews with our key stakeholders, but when you take the design thinking approach, we emphasize empathy. So it's about using various techniques to immerse ourselves in our customers' world, truly stepping into their shoes so that we not only understand what their functional requirements are, but also what are their emotional needs. What would they like to have from this experience? And from this, from the insights that we gain through empathy, we redefine and reframe the problem so that we actually land on the right definition of the problem, right? Instead of just relying on assumptions. And in traditional approaches, we tend to involve our customers at the start, when we want to understand what the problem is, and then we only come back to them, right at the end after we've developed a solution. But with design thinking, we actually keep them close because we are co-creating the solution with them. So when their expectation shift, we are actually keeping up pace with them. And I think design thinking, it really helps IT departments to deliver products and solutions that are truly meaningful and valuable, right? Not just something that is technologically sound.
Thank you, Malini. Very, very important points. I can see that Ian's just dying to ask you questions or to add to that. Go ahead.
I really resonate with what Malini is saying here because, if you took it from an IT perspective, she mentions, ITIL service management. It's been around for a long time, and there still seems to be an element of what I term as silocytis. It's like a disease. The IT areas are operating in their specific technical focused domains, and that's why the likes of things like SIAM are coming through, where this integrator layer gets embedded into the organization, and then it's a perfect opportunity. Because the integrator layer essentially is very user experience, very customer centric. Functional unit that wants to ensure that whatever happens in the back end, we are considering the many different stakeholders, internal and external to the client. And I really agree with what Malini is saying in terms of, if you look at how design thinking starts. Michal mentions Who are the main stakeholders here? Internal, external, stakeholder mapping. Let's start to put research, together on the particular need or the challenge that we're facing. And, the whole thing is driven literally outside in, and it makes a huge difference. And look, guys in IT, it's a thankless task. I mean, they work all hours of the day fixing stuff and keeping the lights on. And, they'll all argue we are user-centric. Of course you are. You're fixing stuff for people who are using your systems. But the big transformation, the big problem solving, I think this is where potentially we need to be more holistic. And I just kind of resonate with what Malini is saying about, the holistic kind of stakeholder views that design thinking brings to the table.
Right. Malini.
Thank you, Ian. And earlier, when you were answering the question about, how does design thinking, integrate with other frameworks that we typically use in IT, what I was thinking was, we should get away from thinking about these different approaches in silos, and which is why I was emphasizing that fundamentally design thinking, first and foremost, is about a mindset. And irrespective of your role within IT, irrespective of which models you employ and so on, we can adopt that human-centered mindset. And that's really the first step. The techniques and tools are ways to bring that mindset into practice. But it's about getting everyone in IT, irrespective of who they are, where their role is, getting them to start thinking in a certain way.
Thank you, Malini. Rafal, you wanted to ask a question,
yes,
or do you have a comment?
It is amazing because the mindset is very important to think in a human-centered and customer-centered style. But also I've seen on ITIL, I'm not an expert in ITIL, but I've seen that there are a lot of concepts which supports this kind of things. And in the newest versions of any IT approaches, such as ITIL, FitSM, there is, for example, concept of XLA, which should swap with SLA, not service level. Oh my! And A was agreement, not service level agreement, but experience level agreement. So the change is very visual. We can see the change in the approach in the IT frameworks as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, last thing. I again resonate with what Rafal's saying. I think a lot of people, there's a lot to frameworks like ITIL. I mean, they're a lot bigger in terms of coverage and content than a lot of people understand. And there are elements of that whole strategy and customer centricity in there. But the reality of the world is most companies have taken from things like service management and ITIL the more operational parts of the frameworks and embedded those in. And they, it's just what, in my experience, reality, we're still grappling with this transformation design kind of area and how best to get that going. So yeah, I mean, again, Malini and Rafal, I agree. I mean, the design thinking method, its approach, its mindset really, would work in most IT providers that I've come across, in conjunction with, I think that's the key word, in association or in conjunction with it, things like ITIL, SIAM, Agile, etc., etc. It's complementary without a doubt.
Thank you, Ian. And thank you all for the interesting conversation and discussion. The last question from this part of the panel goes to Rafal. In your experience, Rafal, how does design thinking affect stakeholders' engagement and motivation during development of a strategy? complex question.
Yes, it is complex, and the first thing is that working on strategy is always a hard work, and we cannot forget that it is hard work. People must focus. People must find people's needs. Must to try understand the situation, but there is also a lot of ambiguity, and even if there is sometimes a fun, it is still a work to be done, and it is very important work because it impacts on the whole organization. So it's not just fun. However, the involvement and motivation of the various stakeholders produces fantastic results. From the perspective of the boards and people responsible for creating strategy, there is a higher level of confidence that they have done a good job. And the vision or strategy developed through the design thinking, for example, using DTMethod, the people have the feeling and knows that this is exactly what the company needs, and not only company, also customers, employees, clients. If the boards of directors, top managements are convinced that a particular strategy will work good for the organization, it will be better implemented, goals will be achieved faster, and the organization will go through the change more smoothly. So this is one side of the motivational aspect of using design thinking on the strategy level. But we have other aspect because we have also employees who will implement the strategy, who will be impacted by the strategy. And if they are one of the main stakeholders of the strategy, they are less resistant to change when we use design thinking. Because during the design thinking process, they have been involved in the creation of the strategy, and the strategy answers their needs, or at least the most relevant needs, and it makes people more motivated in implementation of the strategy. And ultimately, customers, on the third hand, ultimately the customers and users are also more satisfied by the products, by the value which organization provide to them, because also they answer their needs. So design thinking influences the motivation of people. Maybe it's not the first focus, first thing why we use design thinking, but it is very important, let's say, side effect, maybe not side effect, but it's very important outcome as well.
Thank you very much, Rafal. I know that we have questions from the audience. Can we see them? Thank you. I think we discussed this just a minute ago.
Yeah. But I can add.
Can you add anything to this?
Yeah,
Okay,
about the stakeholder mapping that I've mentioned in my previous answer to the previous question, because Rafal covered perfectly, of course, the process of stakeholder management in terms of design thinking and its use, or stakeholder management being an outcome of design thinking process. But the stakeholder mapping itself is a very interesting tool that covers like the initial part of stakeholder management as well, because we need to identify and map those stakeholders, hopefully, to effectively keep them interested, keep them engaged, and keep their expectations managed. So while using the stakeholder mapping tool process technique, we want to address the identified stakeholders in terms of their power or influence over the organization, over the things that we want to accomplish, and their interest in that. So we try to map them on the 4 quadrants to define where they lie on the graphic, the representation. So you go back to the visual communication, and that definitely helps out with the further categorization of importance of our stakeholders to drive the stakeholder management.
Thank you, Michał. And can we see the next question? Okay, how does design thinking support the concept of co-creation? Rafal, do you want to answer this, and then Ian?
Sure. Co-creation and co-design. These are 2 names of the mindset which should be used in the change management area. Maybe not only in the change management, but it's very close to me that when we want to implement a change, when organization want to introduce a change, the co-creation and co-design are engaging people in definition of the change, in defining the vision of the change. People from different departments, from different levels of hierarchy of the organizations are engaged in creating the vision change. The vision of the change. So design thinking is a perfect match for change management in this place, in the place of co-design. So I will stop here and give voice to Ian.
Thank you, Rafal. Ian.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think Rafal's mentioned in a previous, I don't want to use the word episode, it sounds like we're on a series here, but on a previous session, that the importance of the sponsor and the design team in co-design and co-creation. So right up front, in the design method, when the sponsor of this initiative starts talking about which designers we need involved here, that they need to come into Rafal, and to Michael, stakeholder mapping in terms of, we should have, if it's IT, we should have people from different areas of IT, some areas from the business, in some instances, some area from the public, because it may be something that is public facing. So, looking at a holistic view of who the stakeholders are who are going to be affected by, involved in this particular initiative, and selecting them to be part of the co-creation and co-design of this solution is an extremely important part of design thinking. So that holistic thinking is extremely important.
I agree. Very important point. Thank you, Ian. And can we see the last question from the audience? Thank you for those questions. Can you compare DTMethod and change management? Scientific question. Malini, I can see you want to take it.
I do indeed, and what a great question. So change management is all about how to guide people through transitions, right? So, and the purpose is to ensure that the proposed change is adopted successfully. That people actually embrace that change, right, and become part of it. And design thinking is a structured approach to help us understand what users' needs are and to creatively come up with solutions that work. And I have personally used design thinking to create change management strategies and also to implement them, right? And I think the two actually work together really well. Both approaches emphasize structure, so it helps to, if you're working with time constraints and specific objectives, it certainly shows you the pathway to do that. But more importantly, both actually focus on human centricity, which is what I was saying earlier about that mindset. With change management, we want to understand, why people might have different responses to change initiatives. Some people will be enthusiastic about it. Some people will be, resistant to it. And we can use design thinking to help us really empathize and understand where they're coming from, and therefore, be able to create, interventions, like whether it's training or communications, etc., that's going to help them in the way that they need most. So in my experience, I think design thinking actually helps to make change management much, much more effective. Otherwise, it can just end up, in some organizations, I see change management actually ends up just being like a lip service kind of exercise. So use design thinking to make it truly, truly effective.
Thank you, Malini, and thank you for the great question. Ian, you would like to add to that?
Yeah, just something popped in my head. I was having a conversation with a friend/client last week, and they are considering creating I just want to get the terminology right here. It was something like an innovation and transformation office in their company. It's quite a big company. And they were talking literally about project program management, change management, and they were considering putting design thinking into that office because they see the combination of those three really, powerfully transforming and, changing the organization.
Thank you. Both interesting perspectives and putting those certifications on the map or methodologies. Malini, what would you like to add to this?
I don't want to take up too much time, Ian, but I would suggest you go back to your friend and tell him that unless this office, the purpose is to build capability across the organization rather than sort of own the innovation, initiatives. I think it's not worth setting up a separate transformation office. This is a problem I see so many organizations do. They'll have an innovation director and an innovation office, and they think all grand ideas are going to come out of there. I actually think it's much better to set up these functions to build capability across the enterprise. Innovation should be a democratic thing, anyone and everyone across the organization, who has touch points with customers, they are best positioned to tell us what needs to be changed,
Exactly. That's at the heart of design thinking, actually, this approach. Thank you, Malini, and thank you, Ian, for bringing us naturally to the last part of the panel, when we will be talking and discussing real life examples. So thank you for opening for that. Rafal, first question would be for you. Can you share examples where design thinking has significantly influenced recruitment processes in companies? Let's start from the beginning.
Recruitment or motivational? Yes.
Recruitment and onboarding and motivational process.
There were processes when we worked with HR departments on both the recruitment and motivation, because these were very connected issues in our clients' culture. But to be focused on the recruitation. It was very interesting process because the organization, the HR department, invited to work in the design thinking process people from different departments, but also they invited their ex co-worker. So it was very amazing that people who weren't part of this organization were engaged in the process. However, it was also very hard to conduct because during exploration phase in the DTMethod, we need to collect as much information as possible about stakeholders, about main stakeholders, users. So the people who hold the most important knowledge for this process are people who they want to recruit and they cannot recruit. The issue was how to recruit better people who will better fit the organization and will work longer in the organization. So if they had a problem with recruitment, there was a problem in finding these people on the market to conduct interviews, to collect surveys from them, and we are not talking about observations at all because it was impossible in this design thinking process. So you know, sometimes design thinking processes are very hard to conduct because of the hardness of the how to reach the main stakeholders. But if the organization will do that, if the designers will find their way, the solutions are very impactful. I know that the organization implemented the solution when which team developed. One part of the solution was shortening the recruitment process from a lot of steps to 3 steps. So that was one thing, making easier to get people on board to the organization. But the second thing which worked well was that the people the designers reached started to be interested about this organization because they didn't know about design thinking, and recruiters and people from organizations said them that they are conducting research in design thinking process. They want to understand better what people look for in the companies. They want to understand their needs. They want to, etc., etc., etc. And people started to think, whoa, it must be so fantastic company that they are conducting this kind of process. And I think that it also worked quite well.
Thank you, Rafal. I think it showcases the value of running DTMethod processes. Thank you very much. Also for in case of onboarding. Next question will go to Agnieszka. Agnieszka, can you share with us and talk about situations where design thinking could be the answer to the challenges of planning and implementing digital transformation? Sorry.
Yes, so design thinking can be some kind of especially effective in overcoming challenges at from my perspective, two critical points in the digital transformations process. So in step second, when during the digital transformation, so it's the step define, so where the organization shapes the vision of digital transformations, how these digital transformations will be in the organizations, what are the main area in the organization. So it's the great part to using design thinking to cooperate with the people working how this digital transformations visions will be the best for the organizations, and engage people in this step is very important because it will have impact on the implementations and on the future steps. And the second part, when the design thinking it's really used in the digital transformation. So it's when we deliver the program, the project. So when we are on the deliver stage and we have some challenges during the deliver, or we need to think about what will be the best options for going through the program, the project. So it's also a great idea to use design thinking. But from my perspective, the digital transformations manager need to know how to use design thinking, how to be a facilitator during the workshop, and need to use these competences when they need. That's a necessary area to implement design thinking in the digital transformation process when there's some challenges and needs to resolve some problems. So it's the great methodology to use during this kind of deep transformations in the organization.
Thank you very much, Agnieszka. Now let's move on to PMI experiences. And Michał, during the PMIthon that you organized, you included design thinking experts as mentors to support the project teams in their work. I'm curious, why did you make this decision?
Yeah, definitely. And a great question. Very quickly, background. PMIthon is a hackathon-style event for project managers. I have been a mentor on different hackathon events, and project managers are never needed there because we disrupt the work of the programmers or developers. So we've decided to create our own event for project professionals to help out the NGOs, local NGOs that need our capabilities as project professionals. So last year, we had the very first event. We were working on the topic of volunteering and how to engage the volunteers, how to keep them growing with the organization, and how to retain them and how to keep them interested in helping, especially in the days that we have like offline volunteers and then like cyber volunteers working with many different organizations. So our teams were working on this very open topic to provide solutions that were and still are available to any NGO that needs them. And we've invited design thinking mentors as well to help the teams. Why? Because it's a toolbox or a utility belt. Design thinking method is a toolbox or utility belt with the things you would need to push your discussion, your workshop, your project forward, especially if you're stuck. And when the team have like 8 hours to come up with an idea and present them to the jury to make a decision who won the first prize, they need to stick to the tight timeline. And our design thinking mentors or coaches were a real help to them to keep the pace of their work as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Michał. Rafal, you were a mentor in the aforementioned PMIthon. Can you give one most interesting problem that the project managers came to you with?
Only one. It's always hard for me to limitate my answers. Okay. So the most important problem for the project managers which took a part in this PMIthon was to understand the volunteers' perspectives. The challenge which they focused was to engage mostly young people to become volunteers in a very important foundation, because it is, some of you may know it, it's DKMS. It's a foundation that runs a register of bone marrow donors, and volunteers are to collect or engage people to register in this register, and it was crucial for the teams to understand the young people which might or could become volunteers, how to engage them to become the volunteers for the DKMS, and finding the way to contact them, to reach them, to understand them was the most important part in this process, because even it was important onto two times. First, to get knowledge about them, and secondly, to test their solution. And testing solutions is very important also in the design thinking process.
That's all correct. Thank you. The next question would be from Malini. Malini, can you share an example of a project where design thinking could help overcome cultural or communication barriers in the work of an international IT teams?
Oh, we could actually spend a whole session entirely on this, but I'm going to try and condense this into 2 minutes, right? So a project that I worked on had, it was for customers in Asia Pacific, North America, and Europe. And of course, team members, were also from these different regions. And we had significant cultural differences that were impacting our ability to collaborate and communicate and work effectively. And I'll just share very quickly 2 examples. One is that, members from certain cultural backgrounds, they were able to speak quite openly, whereas others, they're used to a more hierarchical, work environment. So they would only speak, when they were asked to make a contribution, or if there was someone senior present in the room, they would actually refrain from participating in the conversation. Right? Likewise, from certain regions, we found team members were very open to the idea of failing and learning from failure, whereas from other regions, it was all about saving face. So you never admit to making a mistake, right? Everything had to be very perfect. And we actually used design thinking to create a culture within the team that would enable us to work together so that we can come up with solutions that actually would be suitable for customers across all the regions. So we focused on building psychological safety and trust, and very quickly the technique of build, break, and repair. That was one of the techniques that we used to get people comfortable with the idea of failure, and getting your work sort of torn to shreds by others. And then we try and see how we can make that work. So I think design thinking actually is incredibly useful for not only, geographically dispersed teams, but also most of the cities that we live in, the societies are multicultural, right? We work within diverse teams. And so we can actually use design thinking to drive collaboration, effective collaboration within our multicultural teams.
Thank you, Malini, and thank you all for all those amazing insights and discussion and sharing your experience with our audience. I would like to close today's panel with giving a chance to each of you now to share with us 1 or 2 most important thoughts or conclusions you'd like our audience to really remember after today. Or maybe there were important aspects we haven't talked about, but you would wish to highlight them. The stage is once again yours. Agnieszka, what would be your final thoughts?
So yes, from my perspective, the main faults of these discussions and going through all this topic. So from the area of digital transformations, that it's about much more than just technology. And also that design thinking is the main part and main competences which are necessary when you will be a digital transformations manager and going through digital transformations in organization. So design thinking is some kind of area that you could use it in the digital transformations in a lot of challenges in the organization. So it's some kind of competences that it's really needed in the organizations, and it's needed for the program and project manager, change manager, digital transformations manager. So it's like competences, some kind for everybody, because when we are working in rapidly changing world, the needed to use design thinking is a lot of in the organization. So this is from my perspective. Thanks.
Thank you, Agnieszka. And what would be most important from your perspective, Rodrigo?
Sorry. Yes, I'm still thinking about the process when I came as a project manager, and looking to digital transformation today, it was a long step from the beginning of project management. But looking from project management inside out, to do digital transformation or any change, we need to have good initiatives. So the idea to have design thinking as a first step to start any change helps and changes anything through the rest of the process. So I strongly recommend to all professionals to use or think about design thinking as a huge tool for digital transformation or any change that we need.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Very important points. And Michał, how about you?
Mm-hmm. I would add to the digital transformation, to everything that we covered, like mindset transformation and the ability to work with such a diverse and different group of people in every project that we work on. But the design thinking is also a tool for inclusivity because of the processes that we do have and the possibility for everyone, not even the greatest shouter in the room, to get their point across. That I think is of note as well. But myself, I will be looking closely at the crossroads of the ESG and regulations and DTMethod.
Right. Thank you, Michał. Very important points about diversity and inclusivity as well as ESG reporting. And Michał, as an author of DTMethod, what would you like to add?
You mean Rafal?
Rafal, sorry.
It's no worries. As a lead author, you know, this meeting was really wonderful for me because I was listening with very big interest about IT and about using design thinking in the IT project management. Malini, Ian, it is really worth deeper discussion, and I think we should make an event with design thinking in IT project management. It's very important to do that, but also ESG it is worth showing how design thinking can help in these activities of organizations. We had a lot of discussions about digital transformation with Agnieszka before this meeting, but it is also it was very insightful where and how design thinking can support the digital transformation process and strategy process. So all of this was very insightful, and wow, what a panel! Thanks.
Great panel. Thank you, Rafał. And Ian, what would you like our audience to stay with? What would be the last conclusion?
I just want to say thanks to you and APMG for doing this, hosting this. Thanks to the panelists. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussions, and the audience, I hope they enjoyed the session as well. For me, the DT method contains quite a few moving parts that achieve a very important outcome. But I would encourage everybody to go and explore the DT method and what's in there, the techniques, the tools, the rules, the method itself, the approach, because for me, I read that book and got into it, and I knew a little bit about design thinking. I instantly found 6 things in there that I thought, that's really cool. I'm going to use that. And I almost guarantee that anybody else would, if you did the same, you would find something in the method that is of use, and that's what it's about. It adds value somewhere. So that would be my final parting shot, actually. Encourage everybody to go and have a look at this method and find something of value. It's not, you won't find it hard.
Thank you, Ian. I fully agree. And I saved the best for last. Malini, what would be your closing remarks?
Thank you so much for including me in this conversation, and to everyone who's listening. I just want to say that, we often have this mistaken perception that innovation is about big things, disruptive things. But within the sphere of our influence, on a day-to-day basis, there are so many opportunities where we can be innovative and improve things for the better. And what I think is so valuable about the DT method is that it introduces you to the mindset that you need, to be open to identifying opportunities for innovation and then seeing them through to fruition. And there's lots of little techniques that you can adapt and use to suit your context. So it helps you to almost become creative and innovative by turning on a tap. So good luck with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching us as much as we enjoyed preparing this event for you. Don't forget to find and follow APMG on social media. Find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as on YouTube. You will find plenty of insightful content there. If you wish to learn more about DTMethod, go to APMG website or directly to www.dtmethod.com. You will also find all of our amazing guests on LinkedIn, so go and find them and follow them. Ask them questions. They have a lot of interesting things to say. Thank you all of you for joining us. And thank you to my amazing panel again. A recording of this meeting will be available in upcoming days on YouTube and LinkedIn. I hope to see you all soon during our next events. Thank you again for your time and enjoy the afternoon.